Well, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Strong and Fit Women of Faith podcast. I have a very special friend here with me today, Miss Allison Henry. Her and I connected back in Success Academy with our girl, Tiffany Peterson. We've had a couple other gals on here that you have heard from with all their wisdom. Super excited to bring Allison. Her and I actually connected a few days ago, and she walked me through a process that she uses with her clients. And it was very informative. It was very like fresh manna, like fresh revelation that came. And I've been using a technique she showed me to help me get back into more harmony with my thoughts when I feel maybe overwhelmed. And she is going to help share with us and just bring her wisdom to you of how on this journey of becoming healthier and more fit, mind, body, and spirit, we can run into those negative thought patterns, right? This is hard. I can't do it. I don't have time. Oh my gosh, I'm fat. I'm ugly. All the things that conspire out, right? And really how to capture and just become curious and aware of that negative mind chatter and how we can really get back to harmony with our thoughts and be able to continue to progress and move forward. So, Allison, thank you so much for being here. And I'd love you just to share a little bit about what you're up to in the world with the ladies that are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Carrie, for having me. And yes, the monkey mind, as I call it, or the chatter is real. And yeah, so I am Allison Henry, and I am an emotions coach. I'm also an intuitive healing coach. And I, as a human, a little bit about me and backstory of where I came to this. I was an educator for 12 years. I worked in Pittsburgh public schools, and as a teacher and a coach and an admin. And as far or I had such anxiety, panic attacks. I was just craving peace. I was feeling so disconnected from myself and just the hustle and bustle of work and life challenges and all the things. And I was living in such fear,
Mm,
fear of what if, fear of reliving the past, fear of the future, fear of not being right for all the people out there, right? A recovering people pleaser. All of those things to say that I was living in long-term, what they call, the term burnout, right? Or found myself in chronic stress. And that is the term for that I came to find was that it was nervous system dysregulation. I was constantly in a state of fight or flight, always, in this stress response that was really bringing high cortisol, right? And that was causing a lot of symptoms in my physical body,
mm,
and a lot of unrest in my emotional body, disconnecting me spiritually and to myself, right? So all aspects, and I've always been, from as far back as I can remember, passionate about holistic wellness. And so I was really looking at this common root theme that was showing up in all aspects, was this dysregulation. And so what was that? And so I knew that at this place of burnout, I had to take back control of my stressors. And I actually thought that I could remove all the stressors in my life. So I went down that road and I started really looking at, okay, so I'm going to, quit my job because
mm.
that stresses me out. I'm not going to talk to my partner and my long-term relationship about the stuff that he's bringing up that causes me unease. I'm just going to like push that aside and we'll just bypass it, right? Because like we'll remove that. If I don't look at it, it won't be there. I would remove the, driving in traffic if I didn't go to my job. That stresses me out. Anything big, small, up, or I would control my environment. I'll just make it really clean. I'll clean every single day and I'll put all of my stuff away, like control freak of, I'll just remove all the stressors and then I'll be good, right? Well, in 2020, when the whole world shut down and all of my stressors went away, like this was right before, I quit my job eventually, but this was a precursor of like everything went quiet. And I was just at home with myself and my cozy environment, and I was still stressed. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, like, so what is it then? If I'm not driving to work and the people, the environment, all of that stopped, all that noise, all that stuff the external environment that we think is causing this disease, this unrest in our body.
Yeah.
Um, And that was such an awareness point for me of like, oh, I need to dig in here. Because, and really think about it, when we remove all the stressors, that's actually not our goal, right? Because how boring life would be. It's like we want that, but when it all happens, we're like, wait a second, I didn't really want this.
Mm.
But I got really good too at dealing with stressors and like breathing techniques and exercising. I was eating well, aromatherapy. I was going for massage, doing all the self-care. My morning routine was really on point, but there was still something that I was missing around this piece of like, I'm still stressing over things. I'm still dysregulated. And the number one thing that I found then through, working with different mentors and coaches and that stressing out my nervous system was unprocessed emotions.
Mm.
Yeah. And so what I was noticing and now what I had found then, because I had come into this awareness with a process of emotional release and of feeling emotions and different texts around emotions, and, it's safe to feel emotions. And that was the piece that really, if I had known earlier on, I would have loved to know, right? Of that, this backlog of repressed emotions, like, oh, I'm not angry, or I'm not, I'll just deal with it, right? Thinking through and doing things to get away from feeling the emotion is not feeling an emotion, right? And so there's this like discernment there. And it just triggers the fight or flight response in our nervous system, because it actually, emotions are energy and they don't go anywhere when we don't feel them.
They get balled up, right? Like we're like trying to, we're actually like what you were doing is like to avoid those stressors, you're actually trying not to feel
Mhm.
feelings that caused it, which means you're suppressing and or trying to act like they weren't there, right? Avoidance. And then it builds up, right? Like a big old ball of energy. And it's like, I gotta get out.
Yeah, and where it builds up is in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Your body like holds it, it stores it, and it's there, and then it's coming out as symptoms, or it's more sensations, or whatever it is. It's like, and we've all been there. Like, your body does give you signals and messages, and loud. Some are loud, some are whispers, but your body's holding that. Your digestive system, right? I had digestive problems. Your immune system, you're coming down with things. Um, and it actually requires all that energy to just store that up in there, and to do all the things to try and like get around it, or get like, regulated without feeling feelings. And so it just drains our energy. And um yeah, so then I came across a process that was helping me to process my emotions. So was, in a place of learning a new thing for me. And like, we hear, or I had consciously heard before, you need to feel it to heal it, right? You need to feel to heal. And, um, it's not as scary or as hard as you may like be thinking as I'm saying this. If you're a listener listening, you're like, yeah, I'd just rather not feel, like I've had people say that to me, or like, yeah, I'm good with that. As soon as you say like, feel your emotions, there's something that comes up, right? Old programming, old thoughts, old beliefs, stories we've heard. And just last night I was watching a show on Netflix called Traders. And, in the woman is like tearing up, and her friend is like, quit that. That shows that you are weak, and I'm like, well, there's just subtle programming and from past generations, but still today, of like, just get over it, right? Get through it,
Yeah. Or
you
suck
know?
it up. You're fine. Suck it up.
Yeah. Or like, really, and this was the thing, then the self-care comes into a place of like, are you taking care of yourself? And yes, I was, but at a deeper level than like taking a break, a vacation, right? Or because here's the thing, you still are like feeling that feeling, even though you're, trying to get away from it and caring for yourself. And so that just what clicked for me, that emotions are just messengers, right? It's not, they're here to guide us, not determining that they're good or bad, but just sensations in our body. And so as soon as this clicked for me, then it was like freeing up energy to feel lighter and more peaceful, which is exactly what I was wanting
Yeah.
in life, was more peace and more flow, and um, to not run away from desires or goals that I had for myself, and to not feel beat up when they weren't like coming, right? And that would cause some emotion. So this whole emotional awareness and this emotional intelligence piece came for me. Um, and I just knew that I was meant to help other people also feel this type of freedom, to give themselves permission to feel their emotions and to safely and softly process and move through so that they could be regulated. And as I said, emotions store in the body somewhere, shape or form, and energy. And so it is my belief that a lot of our physical and ailments and things that come up are rooted emotionally somewhere, or tied to at least some piece of that. And that has been my experience personally. So just came into helping people heal in this way.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I know too, at times we could have those suppressed feelings or emotions. And the idea, like someone listening might have been like, because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with what's going to come up because if it comes up, then I have to deal with it. And so it's easier to suppress, and it's easier because it's familiar. We know what
Mhm.
that feels like to just shove it down and not deal with it. I have clients who, try to avoid looking in the mirror, just like pretend that everything's fine, just so they can get through the day, when that's not the case. And it's recognizing, like you said, that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to
Mhm.
not feel okay. And then not have any judgment around it, but just like, okay, well, I wonder why I'm feeling like this. What happened? What was I thinking that started triggering this? Right? Like you said, like just getting more curious, and we have that awareness. Because look, you realized emotions were the stem of it, and you were once you had that awareness, like, oh, and just from that awareness alone, you were lighter and had more peace, and you didn't have to physically do anything or avoid anything, right? You're able just to be and allow it to flow. And then you're like, oh, wow, that was easy, right? Like, and I think because that's our natural state, I believe, is that peace, joy, love, kindness, like all the positive emotions are
Mhm.
our natural eternal state. But we forget that in the world because we have all these things, life, right?
Mhm.
And external things that can make us feel a certain way because of our programming, conditioning. And so having that emotional intelligence really brings that power back to yourself.
Yeah, and as you said, I agree, the natural state is love, right? And like that having that peace, and these feelings of, not love and peace are here to teach us and to bring us into a deeper knowing of that,
Mhm.
which is ourselves. And so just bringing us back to our nature, back to our center, and to know ourselves, because so many of us, like, we want connection deeper with other people. We want to feel, like connected to other humans. And it's like, as I began to, become, what was blocking connection with other humans and with other people? Well, a lot of it was my anxieties. And where was the anxiety? Well, a feeling. I was afraid that if I was connected or feel lost, right? Or to feel. And so in this protection, actually, of us protecting from not wanting to feel a certain way, we're not allowing ourselves to feel what we do want to feel, right? So we can't selectively numb out. I don't want to feel anger, but I want to feel joy. Well, there can, and so we get into this, like, oh, this ebb and flow more. And that's regulation too of nervous system. You're not always calm, but you're like able to just experience life and to be more present with what is,
Yeah.
and flowing through that versus restricting, resisting, or numbing, avoiding those types of things that cause suffering, right?
Yeah.
That cause us ultimate suffering. And so, and the other part of, what feels safe to go there is to know that we have tools and processes, or a community that support us in doing that work, right? Because then the how comes up. Well, how will I do that, right? I don't want to go there. Um, and so having that in place makes it, also um, you able to go there.
For sure. And I know, a lot of women listening to this and that listen to the podcast or in my community and just in my world is just that desire to be healthy and fit to be able to do all the things that they want to do. And some are on that journey and they're living that out. And each day, they do the things to allow them to have the energy and vitality they want. And there's others who are just beginning the journey and don't know where to start. And they feel overwhelmed or frustrated because what was working is now not working. And then they're maybe trying all the things. Like, what are some processes that they could use to help them maybe with just that discernment of, I was talking with someone where she felt like, how does she just do it all? I'm like, well, we don't do it all.
Mhm.
Like we visit that vision. It's like, what do we want? Okay. And what are we being called to in this season or this day, this week, this month? And let's focus there. But how do we get to that place?
Yeah, so I love that. I mean, we don't do it all, right? We prioritize, but how do we prioritize? Well, do we know, like, it's coming into self-awareness. Like, what do I need right in this moment, right? What am I feeling? Too, am I tired? Do I need a nap over just pushing and doing? Because what I do know is that, it's all connected. And so what is stressing your body out is you not listening to it. And what I mean by that is if I'm tired, but I go do a really crazy workout, or for instance, if I'm women, right, and hormones are all changing throughout the month. And if I'm in my cycle, if I'm on the time of the month where I have low testosterone, low, energy hormones, and I'm working out real fast, like that's causing stress in your body, right? And so I feel like we ultimately know that as women. Like, I'm just tired. Well, yes, you're tired because you have these, this part of your month. And so if we honor that, right, what can I do? Like, I can't do it all, right? So if I'm tired, like, what can I do? Where we get sometimes hung up is like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm too tired, right? We give up. But it's like, no, we can do something. What about a stretch? What about a walk around the block? Like, which, well, that's not good enough. Well, is it? What if it was good enough, right? And so we just get more into ourselves and in tune, because reality is we're feeling all these feelings all day long, whether we identify or call it out or we don't even know sometimes, right? We're more robotic or into our routine or day to day. And, then we just have to, like, we wonder why we feel disconnected. Well, if we first, it's slowing down. It's slowing down enough to ask the questions, like really check in with yourself. How are you? How are you feeling, right? And to lessen the tension, because how does that feel when you say I have all these things to do and everything is so urgent right now, right? Or I'm carrying all of this stuff, like all these responsibilities. Well, maybe you're overcommitting, right? Like maybe and so it's just in this awareness place, then these feelings come up and then we honor them. But if we keep dishonoring, right? If we keep, distracting ourselves from it, then we just keep repeating the same old cycles that don't get us the desired feeling we're after. Or even if we hit our goal, we still are like, well, I don't feel great because I pushed through, and I didn't honor myself. So it is just like looking at um, being more open to ask yourself, how are you feeling? And to meet with yourself. I love to do that in the morning, to meet with myself before I meet with the world,
Yeah.
right? And just check in. How am I feeling? What is for me today? And I just pick, one thing that I'm going to commit to do today, for myself, maybe two. But if it's, you're starting out, just one thing that you're going to see and then see yourself do that, um, to honor how you're feeling, in this moment. Um,
And I love
yeah.
one thing you said too, was, you may want to go and do a 60-minute workout or a 45-minute, whatever, but you're just not you don't feel like you have the physical energy to really do that. And you feel guilty because, well, then if I can't do it, I won't do anything. And like you said, go walk around the block. That's not good enough. And it's that, even ask yourself, why is that not good enough? What if my girlfriend said that's all she was able to do today? Would I tell her that's not good enough? And like, who says if it's good enough or not? Like, who is judging that, right? There's one thing to say if we're being slothful and we're just, you know, laying on the couch eating bonbons because we're tired. Well, of course we're tired, right? We're eating junk. But you
Mm,
know what I mean? Versus, hey, like I'm honoring the way I'm physically feeling and I'm going
mhm,
to do what I can with the capacity I have. And that is more than good enough. Because it's better
mhm.
than, right, sitting down and doing nothing or
Yeah.
binge watching TV. You know what I mean? And I think
And
that,
it tells, and it keeps playing the belief, or it tells ourselves like if we, that we're not good enough, that we are not. And yes, we have goals
yes,
of being, looking, feeling a certain way. But if we are not able to be where we are right now, and we're always like disconnected from what that information is or who we are right now, and loving and accepting just as we are, um, then we'll never even know the progress too. If we don't start where we are, it's like we're always reaching for something else, but when is it enough? You
yeah.
know?
And
And so we can get into that slippery slope there. That's you know.
one thing that just dropped in my spirit to ask you is, how would you coach someone in regards to external environments that can trigger emotional responses, like your family, like when someone's shouting or there's a disagreement, like how do you kind of keep yourself centered emotionally and not react to someone's tone of voice or the words they spoke, right? Like, because right, we all, most of us have kids or are married or whatever, we have others in our environment on a regular basis that we have to cohabitate potentially with. um
Mhm,
and that, you know, when we allow other people's energy, especially if it's negative energy, can influence. I know for me, I'm very sensitive to other people. I can tell if someone's not having a good day or whatever, just by their body language. I just feel it. And then I can take that on and then act from that.
mhm.
So, what is maybe some tools that someone can use to help them remain the way they were feeling prior to the interaction and be able to stay that through and after the interactions?
Yeah. So taking care of you, first and foremost, nourishing you, because you have all felt it before when you have been driving in the car and somebody cuts you off and you have just let it go, or when somebody cuts you off and you have screamed and laid on the horn. Well, what is that? That is you getting, that's your nervous system regulation. That's you having this window of tolerance that's so short. And we've heard the term of like short fused,
Mhm.
right? Triggered, triggered, triggered. So that's one piece of it. If it's something that like you've responded to something in your environment and you're like, oh, that was not nice, or that was not me, or you're realizing that that threw you off of your trajectory, or what, where you wanted to be or do for the day. That's one piece of it. And then and so if you're in a regulated state more often than not, like if you have regulation where that window of tolerance, we call it, is larger, and it's like a trigger of a family member that's constant and it's over time, um, that is still to presencing yourself to be able to know or choose consciously, right? Because unconscious patterns just like fire out, right? We don't 95% of our daily behavior is unconscious. It's just flowing. What we say, think, do, it's just is on routine and reaction. So getting into a practice of pausing so that you can collect yourself, center yourself, ground yourself before and choose how you want to respond versus react, right? Because it is so easy to get to humans, we want to co-regulate too, and there is this part of like, if somebody's, we feel that, as you just said, like I feel their dysregulation, and then something starts to like get agitated in me. What is that? That's not mine. So it's like that awareness too. But taking a deep, they've always say like pause before take the power of a pause. It really is that. It's like pausing and being like, okay, is this, how am I choosing to respond to this versus just react, and to get into that cycle with them. Um, yeah, and I would just does that help answer your
The,
question?
the pause is good. I think I've even heard, Mel Robbins, she talks about, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, like same thing as a pause. You're just giving your mind something to focus on, versus the emotion that's, trying to come out in a way that you don't want it to, for you to, right, get back into regulation. So the pause is good because that's different. Because I know I've let things just fly out like a total reaction without thought, that just bleh, right?
Yeah.
And like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that, and then all that comes up, and then having to work through the guilt, or, apologize because you acted in a way that wasn't in alignment with who you are.
Yeah, and when it comes to emotions, I mean, that's triggering you. That is making you feel such a way, right? When that person's doing something and your response is giving you a clue, a message, a thought of like how you're feeling in regards to that. And so honor that, recognize that, and, you know, like that's naming it is so, I mean, give me a for instance, I guess. If you are, if you're constantly triggered by something,
Say
what?
your kid who doesn't know how to clean the floor or shut the cupboards when they leave the room, and you're tired of seeing that last sock on the floor all the time,
Mhm.
so like those little things that tend to, can,
Why is that causing frustration?
yeah, because I want to clean house.
Mm, mhm. Why
So
do you want to clean
and I,
house?
and I can recognize that comes back to me, because I feel like I have to have it done a certain way, and that it needs to look a certain way, or else that means I don't keep a clean home. And if people think I don't keep a clean home, like, so it goes back to people pleasing. Ooh, look at that. Really?
Yeah, well,
It? That's like,
yeah.
yeah. So really pulling that like layer by layer by
Mhm,
layer to really get to the root, right? It's not about having a dirty room. It's like, what does that mean about me, my
mhm,
parenting, my whatever, right?
mhm.
I don't want people to think that. And it's like, well, who
Yeah.
cares what people think? I know that logically, but obviously my reaction to something is saying something different.
Mhm. But right, and validate like I want a clean home and I like that and I'm with you on that. I want it to be peaceful and clutter free. And so then you're just able to respond with like, I really love having a clean home and the way it makes me feel, don't you? Or having a conversation with your child versus like I told you to pick up, right? And then you're like I shouldn't have said it that way.
And
Right?
that's
It's not
what I
really
told you.
about right, what you're craving or what you're wanting or what you're wanting to instill in your kids a value or it's just and none of it's right or wrong or good or bad. That's where we get like
Yeah.
stuck. That stickiness there of like, well, I shouldn't have or I shouldn't feel this way. Oh well, should you? And so it's just like taking a deep breath, maybe like just smile. I used to, just force myself to like smile and like close my eyes when I wanted to scream, right? Or like yell. And so, it's just practice, right? We make practice progressionary thoughts, progressionary, actions. We take progressionary movements, towards what we want. And this is no different.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I do find sometimes like, I want to let it rip. I'm like, okay, no, no. And then like, we stare each other down. And all of a sudden someone's nose like lifts up or lips start quivering, then we start laughing, then it's over and done, right? So that it's a way to also allow the, um, emotion that is not something you really want to have, right? We want to have positive emotions, right? We want to feel good. When we're feeling something that doesn't make us feel good, allowing it just to go in and out, right? Just to flow through, versus holding on to it with a tight grip, to really feel it, right, in a way that expresses, it in a harmful or hurtful way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you had shared with me too, some of your clients or maybe some listeners have when it comes to like weight loss or muscle gain or whatever, the goals that they have for themselves. Sometimes when we don't hit a goal or the goal isn't coming quick enough or the goal seems out of reach, or like you said, I have all of these life things that get in my way and derail me or emotions, like then I lack belief, right? Or I lack trust in myself. I lack belief in, processes or supplements or workout plans but I really, I begin to like, is this, am I, lack in my own belief of myself? And so, when we think like, oh, I've tried it all before, I also would ask like that we look into emotional processing and processing emotions and doing some, just like gentle breathing or like the pause of really getting into like, because I know that, regulating the nervous system through emotional release and through mindset strengthening and these types of, various modalities, nervous system regulation will help to release stuck and stubborn weight. Nervous system regulation will move that stuck energy and that pressure, that tension, that stuff that's, not flowing within us, even digestive issues. It's shown to think about flow, right? And when we want so badly for things to move, yet we're so cluttered with stuff, then looking at that as one aspect, right? Being gentler on yourself, being more accepting of, right? How can you offer more love and compassion to yourself? That's first and foremost is what had come to mind around, having some of those beliefs. Journaling is really powerful. I also use essential oils or aromatherapy as a way to just offer the body a new perspective. As we shared, emotions are just chemical messengers. Essential oils or even nature, right? Walking outside, taking a walk in nature, those chemical compounds are going to give your body a new sensation,
Yeah.
if you will, just as an emotion does, and work with your cells. So that's going to help also. And then, just looking at the thoughts too that you have around, as you identified
Mhm.
earlier, and just that example there, like, am I, um, what do I have belittling self talk, right? Do I have negative self talk? Again, the pressure that I'm putting on myself, of it's not enough, or, you know, um, even how we pick ourselves up and talk to ourselves when we haven't done the workout, when we haven't stayed true or consistent, right?
Mhm.
That pressure doesn't really make it happen any faster, does it? So,
Observe, right? I think, like you said, coming back and asking ourselves questions like if you've tried everything, then and nothing's worked, what's the common denominator? You
yeah,
know,
and I say when it's too heavy, just set it down.
yeah, and really just kind of not necessarily picking it apart, but really being curious about, okay, well, what did I try last, or what have I tried? Did I give it my all effort? Did I follow what I knew to follow? Or like what was my part? Right. Like just really asking ourselves so we can become aware of like that realization for me. Oh, that's just linked to people pleasing. Oh, wow. That was 5 layers deep. Never would have thought. I just
Mhm.
want a clean house and I get irritated when it's not. Right.
Mhm.
But really digging deeper. Right. Because we all know, I mean, everything works if you work it. Right. Like if it can work for one person, it's going to work for another. It can work for another person. So, but it really comes back to ourself, our identity, like you said, um, and really uncovering maybe the emotions, the feelings we're having that we're really not acknowledging, and allowing ourselves to really ask the questions to really dig deeper so we can have that revelation, uh,
Mhm.
and release the things that need to be released so then we can keep moving on our journey.
Yeah, and even with that simple awareness that you just had, like that's it. There you are. Now I have that awareness. Now, next time I can, see if I decide to replay the old pattern or have an awareness and choose something different. Because with a new awareness, we can make a new choice.
Yeah.
And that's all it is, right? It's awarenesses. And, then and also hopefully the choice that we practice is to be a little bit more accepting and kind to ourselves. As you said earlier, would you talk to somebody like that? But we talk to ourselves in such a way. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And I know some people can use that tough talk, we'll call it tough talk, to
Mm.
themselves. They feel like it pumps them up and gets them going. And for some, it might. I just don't know what that long term effect may be on their psyche.
Yeah. There's a time and place for everything, right?
Yeah. Like you can go, girl, but like, that's fine. But I think I know,
With regulation, you can have a clearer discernment too. of when I need the pump up music
Yeah.
and when I need the peaceful meditative.
You're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and that's what regulation is, not about being calm all the time, but it's like last night, or, when I realized, like, I am ready to fight, like, you feel that aggravation, and so I need to go work, like, move my body, move the energy out, shake the energy out, dance the energy out, something like that. But when I'm, like, sad, or I have a low vibing energy of something, like, then I'm sitting in meditation, or I'm doing a slow, gentle yoga, like, and then you get into pairing different modalities, right? Because if we know ourselves better, then, like, one size doesn't fit all, right? We can start to piecemeal and know, oh, this is what I need, right? Just as a mother knows what she needs for her newborn child best, right? And we try different things out. It's like really learning to reparent our stress, reparent ourselves in such a way, in this loving, nurturing manner. Yeah.
Love that. And big takeaway I'm taking right now is that in order to have emotional regulation, we first have to recognize the emotions we're having and to start tuning into how we're feeling and slowing down versus, we're rushing doing this and that. So we're probably feeling anxious, but we're not recognizing that was like, we just have to get this appointment. I have to get here. I got to cook. I got to go clean. Right.
Mhm.
Versus, like you said, the pause. Ooh, how am I feeling right now?
Mhm.
Right. Like that's so powerful. Just that pause and just how am I feeling right now?
Mhm.
Right. And that gets you back in the present moment. Because if we're just going, and I'm saying this because that's been my MO for a long time, going one place to another. That when we actually stop and are in the present moment and like hearing what's in our environment, feeling what's in our environment, seeing what's in our environment, um, and what our body's doing in the midst of that environment, like it's like an out of body, in body experience. Like you're just fully present.
Mhm.
And the dinner that's got to be cooked is not such a big deal anymore. It'll get on the table when it gets on the table. Like it's fine. Who said it has to be there at 7 p.m.? So
Right. Yeah. And I've heard this quote from someone, like, she chose acceptance and grace, and then she moved,
oh
and, like, I feel that. And I feel that perhaps with your clients, with, their goals of, and I feel that, and, you can apply that to any situation. It's like when you accept what is, and you apply grace and kindness and compassion to yourself, like, things can move, things can flow. I mean, I was just in Hawaii last week, and it's like watching the waves and the water, and the power there of movement. It's like, who am I to stop the flow? Like, don't stop or hide, or, you won't survive. Like, that's not, we're meant to have choppy, rocky, crazy, crashing, powerful waves of life. And then how do we respond is the only thing, like, that we can really focus in on.
yeah,
So,
that we have control over our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Like that's what we have control over. So, and like I said, we attach the meaning to every situation, so we can choose to have a different perception or a different perspective. So I love that. I love this conversation because it's so important. I mean, especially as women, right? We are definitely emotional creatures. I know men, if there's men listening, that a lot of it's conditioned. Hey, you don't feel, don't cry, you don't, there's a lot of this don't. Um, where instead of just being authentically who we are, if we feel something, we feel something, and
mhm.
allowing it to come. And just knowing that it's normal and that there is processes we can do if we're not showing up the way we want to, we're not experiencing life the way we want to, we can stop and come back and really be like, okay, well, how am I feeling?
Mhm.
If I'm not where I want to be, is that where why do I think I have to be there right now?
Mhm.
Right. And just coming back, right. And just getting to the heart of it. And then we can actually make an informed decision like that. That's true and authentic to who we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, I appreciate you being here, Allison. I appreciate your wisdom and just sharing with us. And I know it's going to bless a lot of women here listening and just have another tool in their tool belt, really to work on that mind and that spirit component, because that's really what it is, ties us together that way. And emotions are a part of our human experience. So the more we know about them and we can experience them with grace, right, we can move through, like you said, and be more regulated instead of feeling like that angst all the time. We can be like, oh, okay, this is why. Let's let it flow and go. right?
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
love that, my friend. Well, how can people connect with you if they want to learn more about what you're up to in the world? What's
Yeah, I can be found on Instagram at Allison Henry Coaching, and we can put a link there to a connection call in the notes here of this call to for those wanting to go deeper in conversation or just reach out and have a conversation further on this and see ways that I may be able to help. And I love how you said about naming it too. I have a free download that I'd be, able to share with an emotions wheel that I found really interesting. Because sometimes we say we're stressed, but it's really like I feel, unwanted, or I feel, there's just like You're right. We don't know. But what I can say is that feeling my feelings and processing through emotions transform my health in ways that surpassed other health practices in ways that, that I did for quite some time. So I'm confident that it will help you to move into, and I really like this is like my what comes to me, or my motto is like focusing on the wholeness of you versus the wrongness of you. So much of health and wellness and healing area, and I just had been in this like, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me, and like looking at it.
Yeah.
And this approach is like, let's just get to know the wholeness of you,
Yeah.
right? And all mind, body, soul, and spirit. And so,
No,
yeah,
I
thank you so much for having me here today.
definitely. I will definitely link the Instagram, and also if you have a download, we'll link that download for them that they can get connected with that. And yeah, thank you again, my friend.
You're so welcome. Thank you.